Alright, this is my Math 2B midterm presentation. To get started with number 1. It says, consider the four functions defined below. P of x equals negative x plus 1, Q of x equals square root of negative x minus 1, R of x equals square root of x plus 1, and S of x equals square root of x minus 1. And now we need to label the functions on the graph. So, to do that, let's start with just P of x. P of x equals the square root of negative x plus 1. Now, what we need to do is find the x and y intercepts. So, let's start with the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, you need to set x in the equation to 0. So, if x is set to 0, we have P of x equals square root of negative 0 plus 1. Negative 0 plus 1 obviously simplifies to just 1. Now we have P of x equals square root of 1. Square root of 1 simplifies to 1. And that means our y-intercept is 0, 1. Which is this point right there. Now we need to find our x-intercept. So, to do that, set y to 0. 0 equals square root of negative x plus 1. What we're going to do is get x alone on one side. So, first step is to get rid of this square root symbol, and to do that, we need to square each side. So 0 squared equals the square root of negative x plus 1 squared, which leaves us with 0 equals negative x plus 1. Subtract 1 from each side, and we have negative 1 equals negative x. But remember, whenever there is a variable alone, there is an imaginary 1 in front of it. So, we need to divide both sides by negative 1. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 equals just plain old 1. And now, we have 1 equals x. So, our x-intercept is 1, 0. Now we have both our y and our x-intercepts. And we can use this to find which function we can label P of x. And we do that by saying that only two of the functions cross the y-axis. This function here, and this one. And now we figure out which one has the x-intercept of 1, 0. And we can see that is this point right here, and it is this function right here. That is P of x. So, P of x is this function right here. Now, we need to find Q of x. Q of x, we can already label it. I already know which one it is, because it has a negative value. See, there's a negative x. Whenever the x in the equation is negative, the function goes to the left. So, negative x, the function will go to the right, and positive x, the function will go to the right. But still, let's work it out so we can walk through it step by step. So, I did it down here earlier, but I screwed it up, and I need to restart the video and do it correctly. That's the only problem about doing this in pen. So, Q, yeah, okay, you can see that. Q of x equals square root of negative x minus 1. Now, since we already know that it is this function right here, we can see that it doesn't have a y-intercept. It doesn't cross the y-axis. But it does have an x-intercept. So, we will only find that one. So, to find the x-intercept, if you remember, to get the x-intercept, we need to set y to 0. Y equals 0. So, 0 equals square root of negative x minus 1. Square both sides. So, squared, squared. And we have 0 equals negative x minus 1. Add 1 to both sides. 1 equals negative x. Divide both sides by negative 1. And we get negative 1 equals x. So our x-intercept is -1, 0, which does coincide with what we said earlier, in that this is q of x. So we now know that r of x will be one of these two functions. And once we find r of x, we could obviously conclude that s of x is going to be the last known variable. Alright, so let's find r of x. I already have the formula or the steps to find the y-intercept written down. So r of x equals square root of x plus 1. Set x to 0 to find the y-intercept. R of x equals square root of 0 plus 1. 0 plus 1 is obviously 1. Square root of 1, plain old 1. So we know that the y-intercept for this equation, the y-intercept would be 1, 0. Which makes it very easy to figure out which function this is, because only one of the two cross the y-axis at this point. So this function right here is r of x. We know this because it crosses the y-axis. This is the intercept for it, which means that this function right here is s of x, because it is the only one variable, and we have already found all the other graphs for the functions. So this is the step-by-step solution to number 1.